I think video games are good.
I don't know
And
anymore.
I think if you really had to stop and think about it, you'd be like, yeah, there's good games.
Well, here's what I was doing. I was playing a good game earlier yesterday, and I was like, "This is dumb."
Video games are dumb,
Yeah,
but their video games are good.
reminds it, like you ever have like somebody says like a stupid joke, and you're like, "Haha," and then you think about it too much, and you're like, "Oh."
Video games are simultaneously dumb and good.
Because, like, I remember there was an Onion article a long time ago where it's like aliens struggle to determine why so many humans spend the majority of their days staring at glowing rectangles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, man.
By the way, pocket note: next time, someone old,
Old?
someone old,
Yeah.
like close to the grave,
Yeah.
as opposed to closer to the grave than you at least.
Like nearby?
Uh,
Vicinity?
is next time someone implies that like, oh, you're just staring at your phone all day, and
Yeah.
you're one of those. You can recite the data that shows that like old people spend more time watching televisions than young people spend watching phones.
Well, yeah, of course.
So like screen time overall,
Yeah.
old people
Oh,
crush
I
it.
could tell you. My dad never said that to me because
Yeah.
I'm like, Dad, you watch old war movies all day.
Oh yeah, like in terms of just raw screen time,
Yeah.
old people are crushing it.
You know why?
But there's no little thing on the TV that says you've watched this much TV today,
Yeah.
whereas phones do that.
Also, watching TV is a communal activity to the elderly.
Remember, phone bad.
Phone bad?
Phone
Is it
bad.
because it's small?
And it's because you look down at it all day, so you don't get to look up and see all the
Well-
the glory that is the things that Banksy wants you to see.
It is like straight up bad for your neck.
Yes,
Like like consistent phone viewing is like really really bad for your neck and
so
posture.
we'll see those little cartoons where it's like every year our teenager is getting shorter because he's bending more and more over to look at his
Well,
phone.
that's good for me because I welcome a world of normal sized people. You heard me. That's right, normal sized people.
So-
Everyone in this world is too tall.
So, not only are video games dumb and good,
They're
but
dumb and good.
this little exchange has put a thought in my brain.
What thought is that?
Most things that I think are good are simultaneously dumb, and there are very few things left that I think are good without also being dumb. Everything,
You don't like any good smart?
almost everything I love
Yeah.
is simultaneously dumb.
Oh.
There's few things I like left in this world that are not also dumb.
Okay.
And dumb is a term of affection these days, much more than it is a term
I
of
remember like 4 years ago
actual.
when we'd all be screaming at some moment in a game. Like, oh,
Quality.
that's the dumbest! And people are like, oh, why don't they like it? I really like that. It's like, no, no, no. Dumb is good.
Dumb is not dumb has officially become a good term, at least amongst my in my lexicon.
Because it is for the enjoyment and not for your brain.
Yes, and I mean, like dumb movies have become enjoyable, and the whole like B movie culture, and dumb games have become the best because like every game we always get the hypest over are the absolute dumbest.
Yeah.
The things that happen make no sense. Their stories are objectively terrible. And
I have a game like that to talk about this week.
is it Astral Chain?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So there's just no question about that part of it. But nonetheless, I think as I just zoom out on it, I kind of go, how many things are there left that I think are good but aren't dumb? And the answer is very, very, very few.
I like space sciences. That's objectively good and smart.
There's a couple of films I think are good and smart, but there's a whole
But do you
lot
like them as good as your good dumb films?
Nah, the good dumb is way more fun.
You know what that is?
Anime is always dumb.
You know what that is? I'm just thinking about. You know you know how you have your different parts of your brain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, your fucking human brain, your primate brain, and your lizard brain.
Yeah.
That lizard brain shit. That's really powerful. That would include things such as pornography
Mm-hmm.
or hardcore animated violence.
Mm-hmm.
And then above that, right above that, is like your sappy romance thing where the girl looks at the guy and she cries and there's like doves and shit.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, oh, right? And then above that is like Carl Sagan talking about hypercubes. There's very little in between.
Yeah, Carl Sagan talking about hypercubes is not very entertaining, but it is fascinating.
Yeah.
And most people don't want fascinating, they want entertaining.
It doesn't give me a rush in my heart and or penis.
Now, I say that in a way that implies that I'm somehow making a judgment call. I'm not, because I generally... I feel like I want to say I prefer fascinating, but I probably don't.
You probably
Realistically, if I preferred fascinating, then I would actually do that with most of my time.
I'll be real.
But I don't. My choices, day to day, week to week, month to month, are all entertaining over fascinating.
So, I realized something in the course of this conversation, which may be the darkest realization about my personality I have ever had. I used to read constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I was the kid in elementary school that had that giant book and would be tearing through like fantasy novels like Dragonlance. I read like 100 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Space shit, Greek myth stuff, you know, anything you get from the library. And that continued about halfway into high school until the easy availability of your friend's dad's VCR setup that could copy tapes occurred, and I started watching anime.
Sure.
And I'm like, oh, video games were always a constant, but anime just straight up replaced reading.
So,
Reading books was replaced by anime.
audiobooks help for me, but more than that, I think every once in a while, if I just go listen to a podcast on some subject matter of importance, I'll feel like I read a good book.
Oh yeah,
I feel like I'm still in touch with that side of,
good smart
intellectual fuck off, whatever, entertaining. Go.
You ever just watch I'll just go watch a old Vsauce episode about gravity, and that's like a whole book, right?
How many times have you had the discussion with people about how the movie Idiocracy is becoming real?
Multiple.
Everyone has that discussion.
I've had that 4 times.
But how many times have you had the discussion where you were slowly embracing that future? And how many times have you had the discussion where you were like, I've come to realize I want to see the poopy fart butt at the movie theater? Do you remember the movie? Remember the movie they're watching?
I do.
Yeah. Like, did you ever think for a second that you would come to a conclusion as you felt as super above everything at the time watching the movie that you would be like, no, I want Terry Crews as the president and I want the poopy fart butt in the movie theater?
This brings to mind
This is where we are.
Where it's like, do we want to watch some Oscar-winning classics from the 80s or 90s, or do we want to watch Jackass again? And the answer was, let's just watch Jackass again.
I mean, at its worst, Jackass literally had poopy fart butt.
That's correct.
So
this is why I feel it tied directly into it, because like the other one is like, haha, Team America World Police, one of the dumbest movies ever made. Because the puppet, it throws up for like a minute. Remember that?
Ow, my balls.
Remember how fun that was?
So
remember the puppets having that stupid puppet sex show?
Puppet sex. You can't say it's against.
That's like the funniest thing I've ever seen.
It doesn't violate any parental guidance things. It's just a bunch of plastic.
It should though. It's really graphic.
I mean, okay, but like, like, well, anyway.
Like, if you had a Transformers movie where he opened up a hatch and started pooping onto Starscream's mouth.
Okay, but what if it cut to black and you just heard it?
That would actually be way more pornographic.
That's what I'm. But then, but there's nothing being displayed, is there? Right?
No, but
so that's why the ratings boards are all based on like objective calls from a number of board of people that are like, yeah, the context matters, because you can't have a robot decide what does and doesn't fit the standards and practices there.
Unless you fuck that robot up with porn.
Because quite frankly, like you just said, cutting to black and just hearing the sounds of whatever is probably way more explicit feeling, simply because your imagination is better than whatever they could show you.
Yeah. You know what they should do for ratings boards? We need to plan what'll fuck up the kids. So here's what you do. You have to have a control
By plan,
group.
you mean anticipate.
Nah. You have a control group of kids, and then you have the test group of kids, and then you show the test group of kids all that shit that you think will fuck them up, and then you just watch them for like 30 years, and you see which ones like commit crimes.
I'm aborting this joke. It
sex
sucks.
deviants.
This is stupid.
And then you figure it out. You're like, Singing in the Rain did it. Serial killers all.
I have a question. So we were talking about stuff that's good and dumb.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about how some stuff is fascinating and good, but it's much rarely more often that.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can think of that you like that's deep and dumb?
Deep dumb?
Deep and dumb.
Yeah, totally.
Kojima?
Oh, no, I was going to talk about shit like the Time Cube.
No, when I say deep, I don't mean there's a lot to sift through.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's actually...
There's depth to how stupid it is?
There's a lot of stupid. Dumb is a defining trait, but also the intent that the creator had putting into this is worth discussing.
Okay. Is worth discussing.
Yes, at length.
Okay, anime.
Well, okay, but when we say anime, like, to me, there's
the good ones.
There's actually just the anime, the word, but then there's like...
Okay, I'm just gonna say Ava, because Ava's dumb as shit. Like, everything that happens to Ava's fucking stupid.
Oh, yeah.
But it's fascinating.
Oh, yeah, and it's Ava's deep and dumb.
Kojima, you said it before.
Kojima. Yeah. Punch Mom's watching Ava, because despite the fact that initially it was like, it's like, should we watch this? I'm like, probably not going to be up your alley, right? And it's like, oh, but what about the shrink stuff? And it's like, yeah, but a lot of the time there's a bunch. Anyway, there's a whole discussion about it. But then in the end, we ended up seeing so much Ava related shit in Japan that it's just like, okay, I just need to know what the fuck this is.
Yeah.
So she just started going through it, and I think she's about halfway at this point, and I jumped on and sat on the couch and watched like a random episode, and it was the one where Ritsuko is like doing the tests with the Magi system.
Oh, she's arguing with her robo-mom?
And they're going over that whole thing, and I was like, oh yeah, like that episode is like 80% just jargon.
Yeah.
As the hacker angel is just like...
your systems.
It's a TNG episode.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
Right? It is like I feel qualified. I know enough about TNG to say like them sitting inside the cockpit with the chair shaking is basically all that happens.
And they're just going, oh no, man, we tried to throw off the deadbolts and it didn't work. Oh crap!
But like, there's a couple of moments, maybe like 15 to 20% of the episode is like either these little touching moments with the characters that are kind of establishing their things about them, the relationships they have, or hinting at their feelings of the past. And then ultimately, there's just like the description of like her mom in the like as a three entity being, and how these things are always in conflict.
Yeah,
and the two have to outvote the third for any action to take place. And it's like, oh yeah, that was an interesting thing that I completely forgot about in this otherwise dumb cool show.
Yes,
where dumb cool shit happens all the time.
Yeah. Remember that time they danced to punch the monster? Because
while that's happening, right, while they're surviving by the skin of their teeth as this hacking angel is trying to self-destruct the central dogma.
Yeah.
The kids, the 14-year-olds in the pods are naked, getting all like, don't stare at me, don't look at the camera. You know, and it's being super like just dumb,
wacky zany.
Yeah. So you know, a random episode of Ava, definitely dumb and deep. Definitely Kojima.
But yeah, throw up fucking Magma Diver next to fucking anything. Magma Diver's so bad. Here you go, inflation gang. You remember that?
See,
because their suit blows up.
Yeah, we're like, I think not biased, but like I think like because we like Japanese hype shit.
Yeah.
If something happens to do that and also get into a slightly below surface level discussion, we're definitely going to give it the benefit of the doubt. Is there anything Western you can think of that's dumb and deep? What applies in that way?
Nothing that I'm into, but I'd say the entire young adults fucking category of fiction these days probably has some depth to it, even though it is very dumb and about maze running and or being hungry.
Westworld.
Westworld is very deep and dumb.
Westworld
is the deepest and the dumbest.
Westworld crushes that criteria harder than anything
Congrats,
else. Congrats,
Westworld.
That's big. That's a big one. Yeah. 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 I mean, does fantasy ever get, like... No.
Oh, man.
It scratches a completely different itch.
It just popped into my head because I have the ultimate deep and dumb for you, and it is a man's name. And that man's name is David Lynch.
Okay.
David Lynch is deep and dumb to the point where people emulating his style also create things that are deep and dumb.
See, I was thinking of the Lynch that I've seen, and the Lynch that I've seen is not it's faux deep.
Yeah,
because it feels like deep and abstracted to the point of non-discussion.
Yeah. But what if though?
And the most sense I was able to make of Mulholland DR was a gigantic essay I read about it after I watched it, which framed a lot of the movie as homages to film genres. But that doesn't... I mean, we can go back and retroactively explain a lot of things, but that doesn't explain... I don't think you can explain absolutely everything about the weirdness of what Lynch does.
I had this moment in my mind while you were saying that, which is, I want to see if this is a real quote, and it is, where David Lynch will say something crazy, and someone will go to him, "Can you explain that?" And he'll go, "No."
Yeah. So what I was saying is, if you take a given thing where you go like, we have 15 super strange decisions that David Lynch made in this scene.
Yeah.
We can break down why they happen. You will never cover all of them because there will actually be 20. And there will be 5 that you cannot explain and 5 that he cannot explain that he just did because he's like, it'd be fucking weird. And then he just did it.
I've told this story before, but it bears mentioning on the specific thing. There's an episode of the new season of Twin Peaks, I think it's episode 8, in which it starts with an atom bomb explosion. And in post-season interviews, he describes how he was like getting into screaming matches with HBO people because he wanted more money to shoot longer episodes. And they're like, dude, come on, right?
Yeah.
And you can tell right away it's this episode because it's the weirdest one by far. It is a 5.5 minute zoom in on an atom bomb explosion. Mm-hmm. And it zooms in from the mushroom cloud, and then it zooms into the fire, and to the subatomic, and to the subatomic, and there's nothing. It is content-less. And then at the end of the episode, a crazy magic oil hobo speaks a cryptic phrase, "This is the water and this is the well," into a radio thing for like 5 minutes. And then a big evil bug with a human head crawls into a teenage girl's mouth, and then the episode ends. And you're like, why'd you hold the camera on this guy saying this for like half an hour? And all I can think of is because fuck it, because I could.
Yeah, and then you
Because
go,
fuck you.
well, and like it's like, so are you coming from the same place as Warhol and Kaufman, right? Is it in defiance of the genre?
No.
Then it's just cuz.
Just cuz.
Yeah. And I mean, at the end of the day, he also, like, he made a PlayStation commercial with a weird duck in it.
And every time, in every interview that I could find when I was just looking, when people go, hey, what's up with that? He goes, I will never explain anything. Ever.
Yeah, well, at that point, you build an empire on not explaining anything.
Yeah.
So why would you, right? Like, and the you know, the magic of like, film in particular, like, if you were to go back and look at, like, someone like Salvador Dali can get away with painting something strange and then having people dissect it forever.
Yeah.
Because it's one frame which you can put as much intent in, as you want.
So then you start digging through the guy's life. You go, okay,
to try to piece it all together.
He did a lot of drugs.
And then
sometimes it's that simple.
And then you can eventually, most likely, create some sort of narrative that explains why you're seeing what you're seeing.
Like, take Lewis Carroll, right? How much literary insight could you possibly get from Alice in Wonderland? Almost none. How much literary insight from Alice in Wonderland can you get by finding out that Lewis Carroll loved drugs and was
LSD.
obsessed with his neighbor's 14-year-old daughter, Alice?
A whole lot.
You can assume a lot.
And that now gets to the other thing I was going to bring up, where I was going to say Richard Linklater, when you see the unexplained weirdness in some of the stuff he does, it's almost just going like, yeah, well, I'm trying to capture the random, uncontrollable, subconscious dream states.
Yeah.
So your mind doesn't have explanations for what it does. So when you see things that make no sense, it's like, yeah, that's your mind when you're dreaming. Who cares?
Yeah. Fuck you.
Leave it alone.
Yeah.
Right?
And then you get really, really obvious ones with creators coming out, and you're like, Anno, how come Ava is so weird and dumb? And he's like, well, I love giant robots, and I was really depressed when I made the show, and my dad kicked my ass when I was a kid. And you go, oh, well, that actually pretty much explains literally everything in that show.
Also, he had the clout to do that because he worked on a ton of amazing shit at Gainax and built up a reputation for being a fucking anime master. So, you know, you can do that shit. But yes, absolutely. Most certainly. Unexplainable, and you hand wave it, but
like, I feel like, hey, you go to David Lynch and you're like, hey, David, and you're about to ask him to explain it, and then you look at his hair and you're like, oh, I know why.
Did you watch Boyhood?
I did not watch Boyhood. Apparently it was made over 12 years.
12 years. A decade plus 2.
Uh-huh. I don't agree with the concept of that film.
Well, I'll tell you one thing.
It
was alright.
I don't agree with the concept of that film.
It took 12 years and it was alright.
How old's the kid when it starts?
Like, whatever, like 3, 4.
I don't agree with it.
I don't know.
I don't think
I forget how early it starts. I'm just making shit up.
I don't think, like, a little kid can fucking sign on with the full knowledge of being in a 12-year movie
Too late.
project.
Take it up with SAG and ACTRA. Those rules are long established, buddy.
I don't think that's a good thing to do.
Well,
reminds me of that.
When the kid turns of age, he can decide, fuck that, I don't like that, and pull everything off the shelves.
Yeah, sure.
And give back all the money.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like I remember when you remember when Facebook started to explode with your friends' baby pictures.
Mm-hmm. And sure.
I remember thinking, like,
the baby can't consent to
your
that.
kid's gonna be fucking mad pissed in 15 years.
Or not care because no one uses Facebook anymore.
Or not care because we're all in the database anyway.
We're all in the database.
But you know what I mean.
And it's sitting there, but no one actually browses it.
I don't know. I don't like that.
Yeah, sure. It doesn't even matter anymore. But
don't look at my baby penis.
Then you know what? Then we stop it by saying children and underage, kids too young to decide for themselves whether or not they want to be in a film or depicted as a child actor.
Yeah.
Now adults have to play babies.
Thumbs up from Pat.
That's
all child roles must now be played by full-grown adults in every film.
Yep.
I don't care how it looks.
Yep. Go find yourself a Gary Coleman if you're lucky. Otherwise, just get an adult.
Yeah, just get Bruce Willis to play the son.
Put him in a diaper. Put him in a fucking
done.
bobbit.
Perfect. This is way better.
Solved.
Well, you've solved a problem I didn't know existed, because this is a much, much better world we'll live in now. Because, like, imagine Home Alone with modern Macaulay Culkin. No changes. No changes at all.
Dude, you'd be getting auditions left and right.
I would. Because I am a small baby man. I'd have to shave.
No.
No?
No.
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 All right.
It just becomes an accepted part of society.
Yeah. The beard symbolizes baby.
It's one of those things that you just culturally, like, it becomes invisible. Like, you know how back in the day there would be those in Japanese theater, there'd be those guys in all black that would, like, carry things around on the stage.
Yeah, the stage.
The stage hands.
Yeah, stage
right.
guys. Yeah.
So, like, I remember reading, or that's not true. That's a lie. I remember someone who read about this told me.
There's a little white lie everyone tells.
To keep the theme going, someone who read about this told me that people from back in the day that would go watch these old theater performances, those people were actually almost invisible to them.
Yeah.
Like, they became so expected and thus but then unexpected that, like, when people would lift up the actors to make them almost fly and do these weird crazy jet things,
you'd be like, oh,
they were super duper shocked by what they were seeing, because, like, your brain just starts censoring those people out.
I remember a million years ago, I think it was one of my English teachers that told me this, that in way back in Shakespearean or pre that times, that the soliloquy actually felt way more impactful than it does now. Like, when somebody just stands onto the little side stage
and
to talk directly to the audience.
Yeah.
And that was, like, fucking crazy.
Because how, like, what are you doing?
Holy shit, but you're over there in play world.
But
Macbeth.
also, there was that was also close to the point in time in which, like, actors were not necessarily seen as actors. They were the characters.
Oh my god.
Right? And there's, like, that whole thing of, like, you're a performer that will take on multiple roles. Like, there was a point in time where that wasn't a concept, but or at the very least people would tour and not know that you were doing this thing.
Yes.
As a, you know,
back in the days of bards.
In any case,
you know what's deep and dumb? Us. We're deep and dumb.
This conversation is deep and dumb. That's meta.
Oh.
That's meta.
Oh, that's meta.
That's super meta.
Welcome to your meta podcast this week, gang.
This conversation itself is deep and dumb.
Wow. Think about it.
Bruh.
I think video games are bad.
I think video games are good. Debate.
The NBA 2K20 docket article that I sent you last Monday.
Okay, that's your opening statement.
That's video games are bad.
Okay. My rebuttal. You chose to create a career out of them. Therefore, you must enjoy them enough to decide that that's a...
Is enjoyment necessarily a qualifier of good or bad?
Yeah.
Okay, well then you win. You won. Video games are okay, at least.
At the end of the day, video games are okay.
You know what's not okay?
And that's the name of the podcast clip.
Yeah.
Video games are okay.